With exam season coming up, I bet you're looking for some creative review activities. Whether your school requires that students did a traditional exam or you have room for something a bit more creative, like a graduation speech final or some other type of special project, it is helpful to look back with your students over the big concepts, themes, and texts that you've covered as the year draws to a close. So, what options do you have besides printing out a 20-page review packet and giving students time to study it? Well, a lot, as it turns out. Today, we're going to explore 5 of them in hopes that you'll find a match that feels just right to you. Have you been wondering how to get started with student podcasting? Would you like to get your students thriving inside this 21st century medium without feeling worried about tech issues and platform choices? I'm now opening the doors to my free summer workshop, Camp Creative. Over the course of 3 days, I'll give you everything you need to banish those fears over podcasting technology, platforms, and privacy issues, and start seeing your students thrive with creative podcasting projects instead. You'll get my favorite models and listening activities for helping students connect to podcasts before they create their own, done-for-you curriculum for launching your first project, and the easiest tools and platforms for recording and sharing student work in a safe way. Just as in Camp Creative's past, each day's training, packed with resources and tips, will arrive in your inbox, ready for you to explore when you have time. You'll find the link to sign up in the show notes over at nowsparkcreativity.com. I can't wait to work with you during this free summer session. Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers looking for more creativity, more engagement, more joy, and no more scripted curriculum, lesson planning ruts, or boring book lists. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm honored you're trusting me to help. You're not alone on this creative journey anymore. If you've hung out with me for long, you probably already know how framing ideas into sketch notes helps students apply their critical thinking to information and use both sides of their brain to process it and make it more memorable. It's dual coding for the win, which leads me to my first review idea. Try challenging students to look back over the term or the year and create their own sketch notes or one-pager version of the most important things they've learned, focusing especially on the areas where they feel like their memory is the weakest. Give them time in class to work on this, give them time at home, and then set them up to do a gallery walk and see each other's visual and literary renditions of the semester or the year. Okay, number 2, go classic with a review game. Let's talk a little bit about low-key gamification. Who doesn't love a good review game, especially involving prizes? I still have many happy memories of middle school activities where I was tossed pieces of candy. Try going classic with your own riff on Jeopardy! I recently made a fun template on slides where you just sort of click on the 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500 point boxes in each category of a 4-category slide, and each one just links to a slide where you can put a quiz question. And I'm going to put the link to that template here in the show notes for you. So something like Jeopardy, like this, can be a great fun way to review. So can Kahoot, so can running something like Pictionary with your students, or Trash Get Ball, sometimes called Crumple and Shoot. Any kind of game is going to be fun, right? Especially if there are prizes involved. You can even let students create their own review games. It's just a fun way for them to teach each other everything that they need to look back through. Another option would be to let students review in their own way with a choice board. So this kind of combines the first few and even more. Everyone benefits differently from different types of review strategies, right? I'm sure you have your own memories of getting ready for finals. Maybe you're a flashcards person. Maybe you like to have people quiz you. Personally, I created sketch notes before I even knew that sketch notes were a thing. Students are all different, and that's great. So if you give them a choice board that lays out some different types of strategies, then you're kind of empowering them to figure out what works for them. You can put categories on it like the sketch notes version, the one pager, and creating a game. But you can also put things like the podcast version, or create flashcards, or find a partner and quiz each other. Anything that you think would work well, go ahead and throw it on your choice board and give students who learn and remember things differently different types of options. Okay, another one that I think would be really fun is to do hexagonal thinking that bridges over your whole term or the whole year. In this case, you're going to look back, you're going to put terms, themes, characters, ideas, even like bits and pieces of historical context, anything that you want onto your hexagon deck, and then put kids into small groups and listen to them start to make connections between this character from January and this theme from May, and this piece of history that they learned in context in February, and this quotation from a poem from March. As they start to build those connections, they're going to create these beautiful webs of ideas spanning across the whole period of the course. And then again, you can get them up and gallery walking and looking at each other's webs. And it's just all these different ways for them to be making these little kind of linking connectors in their mind, right? And reviewing the material without hardly even realizing that they're reviewing the material. Another thing I think would be fun would be to try Sesame Street questions at the start of class. If you tuned into last week's quick episode, you know that I think that Sesame Street quizzes that Amanda Cardenas introduced us to a few episodes ago are a really cool thing to use in class in a whole bunch of different situations. So maybe usually you start class with like an attendance question, and maybe during May, as you sort of start to review and pull the whole year together, you want to switch it to a Sesame Street question. Let me quickly remind you how it works. You're going to introduce 4 terms, 4 items, and you're going to ask students to connect 3 and say that 1 is the outlier and it doesn't really connect. So if you're doing this for your whole year instead of just for a single book or a single poem or whatever, then you might grab like 3 characters from different books that you feel like have an interesting connection point, and then a 4th character that you feel like doesn't really connect. And who knows, maybe students will connect a different 3 than you're expecting, but just the process for them of bridging across those different texts, coming up with their argument for how they're going to make the connection, their argument for why they're going to choose their outlier. That is a really good way to get them thinking back over the materials from the year. And then if you let them share with a partner or a small group or even the whole class, you're allowing them to be exposed to all this other thinking about how different things connect across the year. And you're just jogging their memory, right? And getting them to think back, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing from October if you're covering the whole year. Or, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that point from that poem that we studied in January, but now I remember. And it's just this sort of organic process of bringing all of the information and ideas you've studied throughout the year back to the surface. Okay, so those are 5 ideas. You probably have lots more as well. And the idea here is that you can mix and match. You don't have to try to cram all 5 of these into your final weeks. Just choose the one or the ones that feel right to you. You might want to do some Sesame Street question bell ringers and 1 day of hexagonal thinking and a choice board. Or maybe you want to like really dig in on the choice board and give students a whole week to choose something and really create a helpful review product for themselves and review with it. Or maybe you want to make a review 1-pager, a big important assignment, and spend time on it in class and answer questions about it and then grade it. Whatever works for you. Thanks so much for joining me today to talk about all things review as exam season draws closer. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay creative.